All right, y'all. Welcome back to Room A-108. As always, I'm CJ. That is David. And today we'll be doing a little bit of a Bears recap. We're a couple days removed from the NFL draft, so we'll recap that. The NFL draft as a whole, get a little bit into NBA playoffs, and whatever else is on your mind, bro.
Yeah.
How you feeling, man?
I'm good, man. I was just thinking on the way here. This is the first time you and I have had a chance to sit down since Ben Johnson got hired. I think that was the last episode that you and I were able to just sit down, besides the live episodes. So, man, it feels good to just sit here, chop it up about some sports. I mean, we're glad to have the guests.
I was about to say for good reason.
Yeah, we're glad to have the guests.
Shout out to Reggie. Shout out to Deshaun.
Yeah.
And shout out to the people that we got booked. That's coming soon. But we had to get back to the roots a little bit, huh?
Oh yeah. This is the bare bones of it right here, man. So, yeah, we coincidentally we did some live episodes. Did you pay attention to our picks that we made in the live episode versus the picks that were actually made?
We did the mock.
Yeah, we did the mock episode.
I didn't follow it pick for pick, but I kind of have an idea of what we picked.
Yeah,
I know
we did.
None
of them not a single one matched up. Nope.
Yeah,
not a single. We weren't even close. So
no, because we started with a trade back and
so it I mean, honestly, even if we didn't, I don't think we would have made even close to the same picks. I mean, that algorithm is based off the big board, which we saw was not accurate at all.
I'll give both of us a little bit of credit, though, because before the draft even kicked off and before we saw how it was going to pan out, you were on record saying that you felt like Loveland would be the better tight end out of the two that were debated about in Bears, communities and online forums. And then, so I'll give you credit for that. And then after the first round, I was on Facebook saying the best wide receiver in the draft is still available. And then the next morning, I'm sitting at my son's baseball game, and here they go going to get him.
Yeah. So. Yeah, no, it was good stuff, man. Like, it's crazy because, with the new regime, with Ben Johnson being there, we really didn't know which direction they were going to go. We talked about this, too, on that mock draft live episode, that we really didn't have a need anywhere starting wise. Like, our biggest need was depth. So with that, they could have went any direction. And actually, it was funny. I went back to the episode where we were talking about Loveland and Warren, and it's still to be determined whether who's the better tight end. But I mean, in this day and age, man, with tight ends, you just really can't be mad at a pick like that. Especially, I want to be on record saying this. I put my bias aside. I'm go blue till I die. But like watching Loveland this year, so for the people who haven't watched Michigan and your extent of knowledge is what you saw from the highlights, take it from someone who watched Michigan all year. We had terrible quarterbacks. We went through 5 different quarterbacks this year, had no passing game, depended on our run game, and that itself was shoddy. It was tough. And he was 90% of the offense's production. And defenses knew that. And he was still able to produce. He's a great route runner. He's a great run blocker. He's 6'6", so, I mean, he's going to be dangerous in the red zone, which is something the Bears has always lacked on. Red zone offense has always been tough. So having a 6'6" target in the red zone is huge. I mean, Warren he had great attributes, too. I mean, he showed out in the playoffs. But I'm just saying, I don't think we really could have went wrong with that first pick. But
Warren is, I don't remember if I said this to you or not, but I felt like, and I do kind of still feel like, in my opinion, and I'm not a draft analyst or expert or anything like that. I never touted myself to be, but just watching it too, I've always felt like Warren was just like a football player's football player, bro.
Yeah.
Like big, strong dude gonna get out there when the ball is in his hands. Nobody is gonna be rushing to sign up to be the first one to tackle him. Like he's just one of them, and he went to the perfect team for that because he reminds me of Dallas Clark.
Yeah.
He is that kind of like just gritty, big, stocky tight end who's just going to sit over the middle, catch balls, and, convert first downs for you. He's more athletic than Dallas Clark, but you think of that going to the Colts and that jersey number, you can't help but think of Dallas Clark. But easily Loveland is the better athlete of the two. So I can't fault anybody for saying that, they got him ranked above him. But, the pick came, and when it went in, I didn't really have an emotion one way or the other because of how the board had fell before it got to there.
Banks going right before we
Banks
picked.
went at 9, so it was for me it was like trade back.
Immediately. That was the first time. We were texting through the whole thing, and it was like, yeah, trade back.
But you never know, if there's any offers on the table that make sense for you to move back. So maybe they just didn't have any offers or any calls coming in that made sense for them to go back. And, if you're Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson is telling you that Loveland is the guy and he sells you on a vision for him in that offense, then you turn the card in and you live with it. And I'm fine with it. I'm fine with pretty much every pick they made. I'm not pounding the table negatively about any of those picks, honestly. You be splitting hairs once you talk about like 6th and 7th round guys and they got a corner from UTSA, and I mean that's what the 5th, 6th, 7th round is for, man. You're just taking flyers on dudes.
Exactly.
Special teams guys.
Exactly.
They might not even make the roster. So like sitting online and crying about a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick is
low risk, high reward at that
point to me.
But so if you had to give us a letter grade, what do you think you would give us?
Somewhere around like B plus, I would say. It wasn't the only way I would have moved that to like A in the A range if they would have landed surefire left tackle of the future like Banks if he was still there, but he goes a pick before. Maybe if they would have traded back and still got one of those tight ends and acquire some more picks, maybe that gets you an A in my opinion. But it's a solid B plus. You could live with it. They stack some good dudes who should help the team going forward. So I ain't mad at it.
Yeah, no, I think B is the perfect grade for our draft. The only reason why I would say it's not an A is, it's not a huge thing for me, but I think we should have addressed safety, and I think we could have addressed edge. I mean, we do have players there. I just think that was more of a need depth-wise. But like you said, after the 4th round, honestly, when you get to the 5th, 6th, and 7th round, you're not really drafting somebody that you expect to start. I guess I wouldn't have went after a linebacker, but maybe they saw something in there. He'd be a clutch for special teams, or maybe he'll be good for situationals.
Yeah, they're gonna need somebody to replace Tremaine Edmonds at some point. So you rolling the dice and taking a flyer on somebody who might be able to fit that role. I'm not mad at that. He might hit, and at worst, hopefully he's just a special teams contributor. But I think the thing for me personally that the draft showed me, and we talked about this before, was they feel totally different about left tackle and edge rusher than we do as fans.
Yeah.
They are much higher on Braxton Jones, Karan Amagaji, and guys on the edge like Austin Booker and the cat that they signed out of Indy.
Yeah.
They feel solid there, bro. Like we as fans are the ones who've been saying they need upgrades there, and even they might feel like they need upgrades there too. But the draft has shown that if they don't get those upgrades, they're fine with what they got in-house. That's what the draft showed me.
Yeah, and it's something that I disagree with what I heard Poles say and Johnson say in the interview. But again, this is just from a fan's perspective. They said they'll let the board talk to us, and we're going to pick the best player available. I don't think they always got the best player available. I think they got the best player that maybe fit their scenario, right? So I think there was a difference there. Like when we got Burden.
My favorite pick. So
yeah, he was a great pick, but like I think at the time, not even Burden. I'm sorry, take that back. Because I'm glad we got Burden when we traded back from 41. Instead of trading back, Will Johnson was still available. Mike Green was still available. Ariante Ursi was still available. Caleb Johnson was still available. Those are 4. Xavier Watts. There were several people there that I think addressed a lot of needs. But I think they kind of prioritize getting draft capital. Poles made a point to to actually let everybody know that he got his 4th-round pick back next year that he gave up for Tooney. So I think he was trying to load up. I mean, Poles definitely likes to trade his picks, so he may not be done. You know, Chubb may be somebody that we're looking at. I'm hearing more about that. Maybe we didn't get our running back, so maybe we'll have Chubb, which will be a good addition for having him and Swift out there. I mean, he's not the Chubb of old, but I mean, still, even if we get a fraction of that, he only needs to play, maybe 5 to 10 carries a game, if that. So I'm not mad at it. Like Ben Johnson, specifically him, seemed very excited about the picks that he got. So if he sees something that he likes, I'm cool with it. Like at this point, we're all in on him, man. We got to trust his process.
For sure. And I think my kind of first blush kind of prediction is I think week 1 we're going to see them move Darnell Wright to left tackle. They talked about it too much already.
Yeah.
And Ozzie Trapillo, I think that's his name. If I butchered his name, my bad. But the tackle that they drafted out of Boston College.
He'll be better on the right side. Yeah.
He's been projected as a right tackle.
Yeah.
He hasn't played left tackle since 2022.
Also possible right guard. So
yes.
they got him because of versatility, which I'm cool with. So no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, but for NFL has always been kind of believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. But when it comes to Ryan Poles specifically, he's kind of been like the opposite of that since he's taken the job. Like when he's said something, it hasn't been a lot of smoke and mirrors. When he talks and he says something, you should probably put some stock into it. You know. So when both him and Ben Johnson were asked about Braxton Jones, when they were asked about Karan Amagaji, when they were asked about Darnell Wright and the possibility of going to the left side, they left it open. My personal kind of prediction is I would not be surprised if week 1 he's over there on the left side and the cat that they just drafted is on the right side, because as we know, Braxton Jones is not going to be ready for the start of training camp coming off that injury. And then if you're probably moving on from him after this year anyway. And then if Amagaji is your swing tackle of the future, well, there you go. Now you set.
Yeah.
You got a young Darnell Wright as your left tackle. You got a young draft pick this year that's your right tackle of the future, and you go forward with that. So that's kind of my vision, how I see it going, just off of how they've spoken about the incumbent guys and about the new guys. So we'll see how it goes, man. But it was interesting.
It was. I mean, I feel like we got a lot of weapons, so I'm excited. I don't think we got anybody that made us worse. So, no, I'm good. I'm excited for this season. But what about the general recap of the draft, man? What is some highlights or lowlights that kind of stuck out to you?
I don't know. Eventually, I got a rant to get off about about the draft process and
floor is open,
anonymous reporting and narratives that sports media, is, especially if you want to get into the situation with Shedeur Sanders. Every major publication had that man ranked either the second best quarterback prospect, some had him third, when it all kind of, ironed itself out.
And let's be real, at one point it was debatable who the first person
between
was.
Him and Cam.
Yeah.
But we eventually got to a point where Cam kind of settled in as one, undisputed at some point, and then it was, probably 75-80% of the publications had Shedeur 2, and then Dart 3, and then a few of them had it flipped, right?
Yep.
So my thing is, whether you're talking about CBS Sports, Yahoo Sports, PFF, these people get their information from NFL teams. They're not throwing that stuff out there blindly. Mm-hmm. They're getting it from GMs, scouts, QB coaches, head coaches, whoever. So they're not putting those lists together, just blindly based off them sitting on the couch. Yeah, a lot of it is watching tape, but they're having conversations with people in the league to formulate those lists.
Yeah.
So how does a man go from most of them, the second best prospect in his position group, to being drafted at 6? There was something funky about it. I'm not going to sit here, and talk about, playing the race card and all of that like some people have. Like I'm not here to do that. You can have those conversations. When I say you, I'm not saying you. I'm saying you at home. You guys can have those conversations on your own about that. But the whole, anonymous reporting thing, I wish we can get to a point where we could just do away with that. I know it won't happen.
Yeah.
But I wish we could. I wish we get to a point where reporters fielded those calls and just told cats straight up, like, if you're not putting your name on it, I ain't reporting it.
Yeah.
Because it's lame, it's cowardly. We supposed to get to NFL draft weekend and spend the weekend celebrating young men for achieving their dreams and, celebrating them for getting drafted and getting to the league. And you got people in front offices who use it as an opportunity, to get their hate out, to get their bias out there, to get their rocks off on, talking trash about people that they don't like anonymously.
Yeah.
And they don't have to, there's no consequences for it.
So what do you think? What's your opinion? What do you think the reasoning was for him dropping? If you had to, I don't know. I don't know if you have a strong opinion on it or if you even, want to take a stab at it. I don't think any of us know for a fact what happened, but what do you think?
Most of it obviously just has to do with off the field projections of like his character and ego, if that's what you want to call it, a brash kind of, outlook on himself. I'm not sure if saying that his father has anything, because
I'm hearing a lot about that. Yeah.
We've seen athletes in the past have hands-on fathers, and it didn't matter.
Right.
Eli Manning comes to mind when he didn't want to go where he was going to go. Was it the Chargers at the time?
Yeah, it was the Chargers.
Him and his father said
yeah.
he wasn't going there, so he ends up in New York. So he's not the first, and he won't be the last
John
player.
Elway, he was one.
He's not the first, and he won't be the last player with, a hands-on, dedicated, in-the-picture father.
Yeah.
So just saying that and using Prime as, a reason for teams to be, take a step back. Like I don't necessarily agree with that, but it's just, it is what it is. If he was the second best quarterback or the third best quarterback, you would think that that's around the range where he would have been drafted.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to go back and look and analyze every other position group, pre-draft rankings,
yeah,
consensus,
see what happened,
and then see where all of those other guys. Was there anybody else who had
Pierce?
That big of a fall?
Look at Pierce. I mean, he had the same thing, character issues. Where did he get drafted? As a matter of fact, a team traded up to get him in the first round.
Into the first round to get him.
Yep. So, so I have a couple different perspectives, man. I'm kind of on the fence. I'm not anti Shedeur. I don't want to come across as anti Shedeur at all. But like, I think more than one thing can be true. So, I think this was a bad year for quarterbacks. Let's just be real about it. I don't think outside of Cam Ward, I don't think anybody was realistically going to start week one besides him. So I think this was a year where, unfortunately for Shedeur, like it was expendable for him to fall down to the fifth round. So I think because of his quote unquote character issues, which is crazy because so there's two sides of it. Like you've never heard about his character issues with his team. Never. You've never heard anybody say, I mean, granted his dad is his coach, but still, regardless, I mean, in the year of social media, the days of social media, you'll hear about something like that. And you've never really heard anything. I mean, of course, he's got traits like his dad. I mean, he's confident in himself, and he can come off a little bit arrogant, but he backs it up. On the other hand, like, see, this is the thing, and this is where I agree with you. It depends on what you want to believe, what's leaked. But if I'm going to say if the rumors are true about him not coming prepared for interviews, and him not responding well, then this was a year where he would able to fall down because most teams weren't going to start him anyways. And how many teams needed a quarterback this year? I think I counted 5. You got the Titans, who already had their guy, the Browns, the Giants, the Steelers, and Who else is that? It? I mean, 4 or 5 teams at
The Saints?
most.
Did you say the Saints?
And the Saints. Yeah, there you go. So there's only 5 teams that really needed a quarterback. So once I think the Giants got Dart, I think now this is something Stephen A. touched on. I don't usually agree with him like that, but he had touched on it earlier. Like, I don't think that there was like a conspiracy theory where all the owners called each other. And although I did just read something, I think you might have posted it on Facebook, that the owners got together and said take him off the draft board. That could be true, but I think there's like an unspoken agreement amongst owners. So I think once the Giants passed on him, that message was loud and clear, like, you know, we need to send a message. And it's unfortunate, man, because I think that he could be a top 10, 15 quarterback 5 years from now because he is that talented and he does have the skill. It was really just really unfortunate because, like I said, I mean, I don't think teams saw him starting this year, and it was not that deep of a quarterback class, and not many teams needed him. So it was just a perfect storm of bad things, man. So
the weird part for me was, well, I kind of saw the writing on the wall, kind of like you said. After the Giants passed at 3, the Saints go Banks at 9. Once that happened, I kind of said, all right, well, if Pittsburgh doesn't take him at 21, well, there's going to be a super slide at this point. But then once you got into like the second round, the third round, the fourth round, and somebody like Tom Brady, who they have a connection,
or
and
even
they could
Cowboys.
they could use a backup behind Geno Smith to learn for a few years. Once Brady and the Raiders didn't take him in like the second round, third round, fourth round, that's where you like, all right, clearly something else is going on, you know. And like you said, there obviously was some sort of, you know, kind of like a little wink and a nod amongst owners. Like, I totally felt like the league collectively, whether you want to say conspiracy or not, it doesn't have to be, you know, they were on a conference call, you know, every owner was on a conference call, you know, saying we're going to do this, but, you know, they can be on the same page, you know, from a distance, from afar, and be like, yeah, we're going to send a message here and we're going to put our foot down on this. You know, so yeah, once the Raiders didn't take him because of the reported connection between Shedeur and Brady, I was just like, all right, yeah, something else going on, man. But like I said, I hope we get to the point where some of you big name reporters tell these cats, hey, if you ain't putting your name on this, I ain't reporting it.
Yep.
You know?
Otherwise, it's just clickbait. That's all it is.
Enough with it. Because what do you, as a grown man, as a 45, 50-year-old man in some team's front office, like, what do you get out of trashing some 19, 20, 20-year-old?
Smear campaign on these kids, man.
Like,
it's ridiculous.
It's lame to me. What are you getting out of this?
Yeah, no.
You know, if you don't like the man and he ain't on your draft board, move on. All you got to do is say, hey, we're not even looking in that direction. You know, best of luck to him, you know. And I like what Joe Shane, the Giants GM, said about it. They were there for having a press conference with one of their other draft picks, and some reporter asked him about it, and he was like, we're here for this guy. You know, we're here for him. We drafted him. I'm not answering any questions on that. Like, and I was like, hey, that's the way to go about it. But come on, man. Enough is enough. Like, report on stuff that needs to be reported on, and if you're not going to put your name on anything negative, then don't say it. It ain't worth saying then at that point. They don't have any problem putting their name on the positive stuff.
Yeah.
There's no positive stuff being reported anonymously. Everybody putting their name on the positive stuff.
Yep.
You know? So put your name on the shit talking too, you know?
Ain't got the courage for it.
No. That's why I said it's cowardly.
It is. No, and like, I think people tend to forget also, like, the intentionally false reports that come out around draft time to manipulate people's draft boards. So, you know, what may have been meant for, you know, a GM to GM, now you have all these leaks out to the internet. Now we see it, and was maybe only meant for one eyes, and now everybody's seeing it. That's why they call it anonymous. And now it's like, here we are. And now Shedeur is on the Browns, which I think is the worst scenario for him now. But, you know, I think he can still eventually take over that starting spot. But I mean, he's got a room of 5 quarterbacks,
which is the Browns being the Browns.
Yeah,
because if you wanted to take him, what the hell did you waste a pick on Dylan Gabriel for?
So
you got Joe Flacco there that you signed.
Yep.
You got Deshaun Watson. You got to figure out what you're gonna do with him. If you wanted to take a quarterback to play and to learn, not to play, but to sit back and learn behind those two guys and figure out what you're doing, then take Shedeur.
So as much
One of those two picks is a waste.
I
Between
agree.
Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, they're redundant picks, and one of them is a waste, right?
Look at this, man. This is the Browns being the Browns, right? And I got a lot of nerve, and because we're Bears fans, but I mean, I think this is worse. But as much as I love my Mason Graham, my Wolverines, right? Had they stayed put, they could have had Travis Hunter and Shedeur. Like, that's just like, it's clearly a match made in heaven for those two. And the learning curve by itself, just the fact that he has that comfort zone for a quarter. Anytime a quarterback has that safe space and that chemistry and camaraderie with a receiver, that makes their job easier. So if the Browns stay put, granted they got another first round pick for next year, I get it, but you know, it's always they've never had a quarterback. Like their claim to fame for quarterback is what, Bernie Kosar, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, go after the quarterback. He could have been the first person off day 2. That's what I thought happened. I thought Shedeur was going to be the very first name called on day 2, and they ended up trading the pick back or whatever. So it's wild, man.
I wasn't even upset with what they did to start their draft. I thought, to be honest, I thought they did well.
Yeah.
They got Mason Graham.
Yep.
They picked up extra picks. They're not in a position where they're getting ready to challenge, you know, the Ravens, you know, or the Steelers or the Bengals in that division this year, or maybe not even next year anyway.
Yep.
So, yeah, trade back and get more draft picks and, you know, and stockpile, you know, your roster. So I was cool with what they did up until they got to the point where you take a cat in Dylan Gabriel, who nobody had rated higher than Shedeur, and then you double back, what, 2 or 3, a round or 2 later to take Shedeur.
Yeah.
Like I just said, one of those picks is a waste then, in my opinion.
Yep.
So you did all you had all of this good momentum going from the start. You know, you trade back, you get Graham, and you get extra picks, and then, you know, you fumble it away, you know, by taking 2 project quarterbacks in the same draft.
Yeah.
You know, I want to go back, you know, at some point I'll go back and look, you know, around that Dylan Gabriel pick. You know, I'm curious to go back and look now to see who was on the board at that time.
Yeah.
You know, because there had to have been people still on the board that could have helped your team now and in the future more than Dylan Gabriel ever will. Yeah. If you get to a point where Dylan Gabriel is starting games for you, good luck to you.
Fire that GM.
Good luck to the Cleveland Browns. You know, because everybody that I've heard talk about once that pick came in, they were saying, "Oh, he's a great guy to have on your roster as a lifetime backup." That's what they were saying. Hold the clipboard if you need him in a pinch. He's got he's a smart kid, and I'm not even saying this to shit on him. You know, if that's your backup or your QB2 or QB3 for 8, 10, 12 years, that's probably cool. But if you at a point where that man is starting an extended amount of games for you, you in trouble.
No,
you're in trouble.
I agree, man. I think they made some moves that were cool, but I don't know, that one I couldn't do anything but scratch my head, man. And he was the 6th quarterback taken, and I was just like, wow. Now, how much do you think? How much of an impact do you think these teams had on? So next year is supposed to be a good draft class for quarterbacks. Do you think that played into it at all as well? Like, to me, the Steelers, that was a big head scratcher for me because, I mean, what are we doing here? Like,
I think next year's draft kind of is the main reason and the main kind of motivation for the Rams getting out, trading that pick back to Atlanta so they can come up and get Pierce.
Yeah.
And now they got an extra first-round pick next year, like you said, in a draft that's a little bit more QB rich than this one was.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for the Rams, and the Rams are just one of those teams that consistently do things well.
Yeah.
You know, they're the opposite of the Browns and the Bears, you know, and the Jags, you know. They do things well, so it wasn't a surprise that, you know, they found a way to pick up an extra first-round pick next year. But, yeah, other than them, I can't really think of any other teams. I mean, and you brought up the Steelers. Maybe they are looking at it like, hey, we'll sit back. We'll wait to see what happens with Rodgers. If he comes, cool. If he doesn't, then I guess maybe this is just kind of one of those tanky years. and we'll see where it happens. We'll see where we land next year. See if we got a chance at a guy like Arch, and and we'll roll with it that way. Maybe that's their thinking right now, but we'll see, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. It was a lot. Like, it's my favorite time of the year, man. Draft time. I love it. I mean, clearly,
especially for you, because draft time is always NBA, NHL playoffs, the draft, baseball is kicking up in better full swing, and then you got one of your favorite times, WrestleMania.
Man, yeah. When we had that live episode, I was like, man, I want to slide some WrestleMania coverage on there. But I was actually mad this year because it's used to beginning of April, and they pushed it back, and it was the same day as it was Easter weekend. I was so busy. I'm like, man, I had to catch the game of the matches when I could. It was like, man, but that's for another day, man. I could talk about WrestleMania.
So are there any other kind of thoughts that you got for either between the Bears draft or the draft as a whole? Any other thoughts or
No, not anything that really jumps. I think what impressed me was Atlanta. I think them going up and grabbing 2 edge rushers, man. That's and 2 quote unquote elite edge prospects, taking a chance, which allowed them to take a chance on Pierce, with the quote unquote character issues that he's having. Talent wise, he was probably the best edge rusher in the draft, talent wise. But this off the field stuff was a question mark. But and that's tough. So I think that was good for them. Even the Cowboys, still, as much as I don't like the Cowboys, but you can't go wrong with addressing offensive line, and that's what they're known for. So
yeah, they did all right. Yeah. They got Booker and another edge rusher. So
yeah.
But I mean, I think like my overall kind of thought is the rich got richer to me.
Yeah.
The Eagles sit back and they get the linebacker they got out of Alabama and some more help on defense. They're going to be solid. And it's always the teams who do well who get to just sit at the back part of the first round and just let the board fall to them.
Yeah.
The Ravens get the best safety in the draft and he just falls to him at the end of the first. And then a guy, he got character concerns, but Mike Green is going there. Like, you got the best safety in the draft, and one of who was argued as one of the top edge rushers in the draft is going there. Round. So, thankfully I'm a Ravens fan. So,
I was going to text you about that too.
I'm cool with it, but
very, very good draft.
But man, the rich got richer. Even the Chiefs getting Simmons to kind of mold as their left tackle of the future to protect Mahomes. So. That's where you want to get to. You want to get to the point where you consistently drafting, after pick, 27, 28, and you let the rest of the teams kind of fall over themselves, reaching for a quarterback, and you just get to sit back there, laugh at them.
Take best available.
Yeah. The draft kicks off at 7, and you're not picking till 9:30, and you just sitting back eating nachos, chilling, and the draft just falls to you. The best player at a position group just falls in your lap. You're like, oh, okay, cool, I'll take it for sure. Come on.
Yep. Yeah, no, this year was definitely for what it lacked with blue chip prospects. It definitely had depth. Like, there was a lot of good quality prospects all the way through like the 4th round. Potential starting prospects till that point. So, yeah, no, it's good. I'm anxious to see next year. As always, it's love draft time. But
it's sitting there just recapping. I'm just looking at the Bears draft recap. I forget who I screenshotted this from, but they gave him a B+.
Yeah, I see that's the consensus is like a B around there. Like, I have no complaints at all.
Colston Loveland obviously pick 1. Three picks in round 2: Luther Burden, Ozzie Trapillo, Shamar Turner. Then round 4, Ruben Hypolite, a linebacker. Round 5, Zah Frazier, the corner.
Another
round
lineman.
6, Luke Newman, another offensive lineman.
I think they're going to move him to center. Yeah.
And then round 7, where they finally,
got their running back.
That
guy's he looks pretty solid. I mean, we'll see how that translates. But I mean, he looked pretty solid. So we'll see a lot of good things. I think this year.
Any of those. I mean, this might be a dumb question because one of them is Michigan, but any of those your favorite pick out of the Bears draft class?
Yeah, I mean, Loveland, of course. No, honestly though, like I'm really excited to see how we're gonna implement Burden this year because that was one of the things I was talking about when we did the mock draft live episode, was like, we lost Keenan Allen, so we're going to need some. I mean, we got some receivers, but I don't think anybody that really popped for that third option. And I think, especially with his yards after catch ability and everything like that, he's almost like a DJ Moore 2.0.
Yeah.
So I'm anxious to see, and then just add Loveland to that, man. The 12 personnel that the Lions ran that more than anybody in the NFL last year. So you got the 2 tight end formation. It's a lot of reasons to be optimistic, but we're Bears fans, so we like to call that cautious optimism.
Cautiously optimistic.
Cautious.
Sure. And yeah, Burden was my favorite pick. We went into this draft saying that they needed whether you wanted to call it a slot wide receiver or just a third wide receiver to pair with Rome and DJ. Everybody said it, so I don't understand why anybody would be upset that the third wide receiver you plugging in is somebody who went into the season arguably the best wide receiver prospect in the country, not named Travis Hunter.
He also had a situation like Loveland this year. I mean, Loveland didn't have the numbers that Warren did, but Burden had the situation where they didn't have the offense that they had the prior year, didn't have the quarterback that they did, so his numbers weren't equivalent to what they were the year prior, but it was not because of lack of talent at all.
Yeah, Luther Burden is going to be a dog. If you upset about it, keep that same energy when that man get to snapping on the field. I don't want to see none of y'all turning heel at that point.
Yeah. So, hey, this year, I mean, we still got 4 months before the season kicks off, at least the preseason. So, over, under 8 wins this year.
Over. It has to be over.
God,
I think the better question would be if you put it at like 9.5, because if you get it has to be over 8.5, right?
Yeah.
Anything other than that, you talking about, if you go under, you talking about another losing season. No, It has to be over. I'm not going to sit here and say that that they have to have a 10-win season for it to be successful, but you better have 9. You better. They sold us too much. They hyped us up too much. Meaning, when I say they, I mean Poles, Johnson and company.
Yep.
They've made the moves to where saying that 9 should be the floor. I don't think that's a reach.
Yeah.
For me, it starts at 9. It has to be.
Even when Nagy first got here, his first year, that was the most successful year that he had. So I think with Ben Johnson being here, just forming his own offense, people aren't gonna have a lot of film on us. I think we're gonna get a lot of shock wins as well. So I can very easily see us getting 10 wins this year. But we'll see. I don't know if that's good enough to make the playoffs these days. You sometimes yes, sometimes no. If the NFC North was like it was last year, then that's a no. We wouldn't make it in, but I don't think it's going to be that top heavy like it was. I think the Lions will take a step back. We'll see about the Vikings. We'll see how they are with JJ.
You're hoping you get some regression from the Vikings.
Yeah.
Darnold leaves and you plugging in a rookie coming off of an injury, so you kind of just hoping that that you're in a position to fight with the Packers and the Vikings for that 2 spot behind the Lions, and see where the rest of the NFC shakes out, and see if you're able to grab a wild card spot. But like I said, it has to start with a 9 for me. Has to.
Yeah. So, like we said, around this time of year, we got NBA playoffs. So, have you been watching any of the games this year? What do you got? Did you fill out any brackets before?
Dialed in. I didn't officially fill out any brackets. The only one, I picked the Timberwolves to beat the Lakers. I picked the Warriors to beat the Rockets. We'll see how that goes, with Jimmy, being injured. The only one that's not going the way I picked was the Detroit Knicks series.
Okay.
I picked Detroit just because, I like the way they play. They got a lot of young cats. And I just thought that, them and their style of play mixed with the youthful roster would have took over the Knicks. But now the Knicks are up 3-1. Look like they're going to handle that. And, we'll see. But it's been some crazy games. It's been interesting. This is, I think we talked about it before. This is where, we kind of lock in on the NBA. We don't really care about the regular season because they don't care about it.
Exactly. Yeah. No, we had a work pool, and it's funny. It's how fate has it. I'm not a big LeBron fan as a player, not as a person. LeBron, exemplary human being, but as a player, I'm not a big LeBron fan. So I actually predicted Boston and Lakers to be in the finals, and Minnesota goes up 3-1. I'm like, see, that's what happens when I root for LeBron. They can't pull it out. But
the NBA show would have loved to see your prediction come.
So so when we talked about the NFL playoffs this year, and when I was talking about Mahomes, I'm like, that's stuff you have to factor in because you're going to get the favorable calls. I'm like, LeBron, he may have. We don't know about it at the end of this year. He could have just stayed to play with Bronny. He may have another year left. You never know. But it was just crazy to me because I'm like, man, if this is his farewell, they're not going to deny him the finals, and then they go down 3-1.
I mean, other than that, that Nuggets-Clippers series, that's been tough. That's been a good watch so far.
Who do you got coming out of that?
If Kawhi stay healthy, the Clippers coming out of that.
Think so?
Yeah. The Nuggets got lucky to be able to tie that series up with that, that dunk at the buzzer. But when Kawhi is healthy and engaged, a lot of people are starting, their picks for best player in the league. It's a lot of people who starting their picks with Kawhi.
I have no knock towards Kawhi. I have a knock towards James Harden. James Harden is anti my pick every time the playoffs come around. That's just granted he's had some good playoff runs, but I don't know, man. To me, it just seems like a lot of times. I'm not going to say it makes the teams worse, but with the Olay, the Matador defense, the ISO only ball, the bad shot selections. I've never really been a big James Harden fan. So I actually have the Nuggets winning that series, but that was the one that had me. I was pretty confident with all my picks. I was confident the Lakers were going to win, although that didn't work out. But that was the only one where I was really conflicted. But because also I wasn't sure with Denver letting go of their coach, 3 games before the playoffs? So that'll be tough. But
so I got them pulled up right here. We'll see since we didn't make official picks.
Yeah.
Before, but obviously Thunder sweep the Grizzlies.
Yep.
That wasn't really a surprise for anybody, I don't think. But you got Nuggets Clippers tied 2-2.
I got Nuggets. I got to ride with them.
I got the Clippers with that one.
Okay.
And then Timberwolves up 3-1 on LA. That's where you take.
I'm just gonna ride. I picked the Lakers to win, so I'm not gonna go what I went against. So I'm gonna go with the Lakers. And you said you got the Timberwolves.
Yeah, I had the T-Wolves before it even started. Golden State's up 2-1 on the Rockets.
I had Golden State winning. Yep.
Golden State, so we eye to eye on that one. Cavs are up 3-0, and last time I looked, they were blowing out the Heat. So
yeah,
it looks
I had
like
them
that's
winning
about to
anyway.
be a sweep.
Yeah, I got Cavs anyways. Yeah.
Indy's up 3-1 on the Bucks. That's looking like a wrap.
Dame is out.
What do you?
Towards Achilles.
Yep.
So,
yeah,
and he was already dealing with blood clot issues, so I wasn't
we'll
already
have to have a
confident
conversation
anyways.
later at some point if this marks the end of Giannis in Milwaukee.
Oh, I think that's a given.
Did we see Giannis and Dame play their last game together?
Yeah,
so?
I think Giannis is done with Milwaukee. I could see him going out west.
And then both the Knicks and the Celtics are up 3-1. I guess
I had them both of them. Yeah,
yeah, for sure. I mean, I had Detroit, but I don't see them coming back from that now at that point. But so if you had to, from those, if you had to alter your original pick of Boston, LA, are you keeping it?
No, absolutely not. No, because I was already conflicted with not. I thought the Lakers would handle Minnesota, but I didn't. I was conflicted with OKC. I kind of had that mentality that OKC was still young. But they're real, man. They're real this year. So I'll say OKC, Boston. I got Boston winning it again. I got them going back to back. I don't see anybody beating them. They're Tatum, Brown are in their prime. They kind of they've hit their stride. So I think this is their time right now. What about you?
So I got Boston coming out of the East, but my Western Conference pick is dependent on Jimmy Butler. If he comes back and he's healthy, I'm picking the Warriors. I just like the way they've been playing since he got there. And if he's not able to go and they end up dropping that series, I got the Clippers, man. I like the way the Clippers playing, bro. Healthy Kawhi Leonard is a dog, and I don't see too many teams eager to play against him fully healthy, locked in. So either Boston, Golden State, or Boston Clippers for me.
It's crazy with Kawhi that like he could be gone for a whole season and he'll come back like there's no step down in his game. He'll come back like he never left. He's like one of the only people that I know that actually, I mean, 'cause he's hurt a lot. Like it's him and AD go toe for toe about who misses more games. But when he comes back, man, he's in dog mode all over again. And I like Kawhi. He's one of my favorite players in the league. It's just if he can keep James Harden in check, you know. Actually, if they beat Denver, I mean, it's going to be. Do they feed into? I think they feed in OKC, right?
I was about to say, I think if they beat Denver, they got to play the Thunder.
Yeah, they feed into OKC because we had a Minnesota, LA goes against the winner of Golden
Which honestly,
State.
I think will work better for them because I think if you want to play the Thunder and you have aspirations of beating them to get to a finals, I think you would rather play them in the second round than have to play another series.
Yeah,
And have to worry about being drained and getting beat up on by whoever you would play after that, and then play the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. Because the Thunder are young, man.
Yeah.
They're young. They like to get out in transition. They, just as probably, the best defensive team.
it's the highest point differential of all time.
Yeah, so I think if you the Clippers and, you got your eyes set on, having to go through them to get to the NBA Finals, just in my opinion, I'd rather play them now than have to play a whole nother series, against, the Warriors or the Rockets or, somebody like that, and then go play them. Nah, let's get this out of the way now.
And you know what? Like, as much as I'm picking Boston, I am anxious to see if it gets there, which I'm pretty sure it will, to see how Cleveland does against Boston. I'm a big fan of seeing new faces in the big game. So, like, every year I root. And actually, we've gotten that, which is something during our lifetimes, you and I, we're not used to seeing that change and mixture of teams in the finals. Like, we went through the Bulls in the 90s winning 6. We went through the Lakers in the 2000s winning 5, and the Spurs also being there. And then, it's and then you got the Heat in there. It's like there's all these teams.
Fed into the Warriors.
Yeah, and the Warriors too. And it's like it's the same teams. And then the last like 5 years, it's pretty much been a different final every year. So I'm liking it, man. I like the fact that we're getting away from the age of the super teams. Really excited about that. Now, the reason why I like playoff basketball as opposed to regular season basketball is because it's not as 3-point heavy as a regular season is. Because I think they play with more heart, which involves more organized basketball as opposed to just chucking up threes all the time. Although we still get remnants of that.
Yeah, I haven't paid. I'm not going to sit here and act like I've paid attention to the numbers for Boston so far in this first series with Orlando, but I'd be curious, just thinking about the point you just made, has there been a dip in the 3-point attempts for them in these first 4 games against Orlando compared to the regular season? Because, like you said, they always say that, playoff basketball slows down. You got to play half court. You got to lock up on defense. And, you're not going to be willing to, to just give away a game chucking threes the way you would in a regular season, but all right, it's just one. We'll get it back. Throwing away a game in the playoffs will cost you. So, yeah, I'd be curious to look at that and see if that changes at all. But yeah, I agree with you. Cleveland is Cleveland is weird for me because they got, when you go back and you look at them in the regular season, they got games where, they'll win 14, 15, 16, 17 games in a row. And then they'll come to Chicago and be playing neck and neck with the Bulls. You like, man, what is Cleveland doing?
It's typical Chicago basketball, man. We'll go blow for blow with the heavy hitters, and then we'll drop the teams. I don't even want to talk about the Bulls, man.
Yeah, man. So yeah, other than wrapped up a lot, man.
Yeah. No,
Bears, Bears we recapped the Bears draft. We looked at the NFL draft as a whole. Talked a little bit about, the BS that is NFL media, anonymous reporting, Shedeur, all of that. NBA playoffs is going to get weirder and wilder. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep.
So I love this time, man. Locking in every time I could find an MLB game every day for me. So, it's always something for me to watch. That's my favorite sport. So anything else, bro?
No, man. It just feels good to have this back and forth again, man. It's been a while.
Yeah. More to come.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I told a few people I'll turn it up a notch on you a couple of times.
Get our true debate on, man.
Yeah.
Got to find something we disagree on first.
And we'll never be able to get to Stephen A. and Shannon's level.
Oh, I don't want to.
Not enough hate for it.
No, not at all. I too much respect here, but I mean, we can have some disagreeable moments though, but not on that level.
For sure, man.
Yeah. Well, shoot. All right. Another episode in the books. I think we were just talking about, I think this is episode 10 or 11, but another episode in the books, and we'd like to thank you all for stopping by. Roommate 108.
Yes, sir.